Most people spend their entire lives believing success belongs to the smartest people. They're wrong. Others believe success belongs to those who have money, connections, or perfect opportunities. They're wrong too. The truth is much simpler and much more uncomfortable, because the greatest thief of dreams doesn't come from outside. It lives inside us. Its favorite words are, "I'll do it tomorrow." Tonight's story is about a young man who lost years of his life to those 4 words. And if you're someone who keeps delaying your goals, your plans, your work, or the life you know you're capable of building, at the end of this story, you'll discover the one thing that separates dreamers from achievers. And it has nothing to do with talent, intelligence, or luck. This story may change the way you look at tomorrow forever. In a quiet valley surrounded by rolling hills, there lived a young man named Ethan. Ethan was not poor. He was not unintelligent. He wasn't unlucky either. In fact, most people believed he had more potential than anyone in the village. He could learn quickly. He had creative ideas. He was strong, healthy, and full of energy. Yet somehow, year after year, his life never changed. Every morning he woke up with ambition. Every night he went to sleep with excuses. When he was 18, he dreamed of starting a woodworking business. "I'll begin next month," he told himself. When he was 19, he planned to learn advanced craftsmanship. "I'll start after the harvest season." When he turned 20, he wanted to save money and build a workshop. "I'll do it when I have more time." The months became years. The dreams remained dreams. And the phrase that followed him everywhere was always the same. "Tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll start. Tomorrow I'll work harder. Tomorrow I'll become disciplined. Tomorrow I'll change my life." Tomorrow never arrived. One afternoon, Ethan was resting beneath a giant oak tree. The sun was warm, the breeze was gentle, birds sang overhead. He stared at the clouds drifting across the sky. His toolbox sat nearby, unused, covered in dust. A neighbor passed by and smiled. "Working today, Ethan?" Ethan laughed. "Not today. I'll start tomorrow." The neighbor nodded politely and continued walking. But after a few steps, he stopped. Without turning around, he said something Ethan would remember for years. "Be careful." "What do you mean?" The neighbor replied. "One day, you'll discover that tomorrow is the busiest day of the year." Then he walked away. Ethan chuckled, but the words stayed with him. Several weeks later, a stranger arrived in the village. He was an elderly craftsman named Samuel. His reputation stretched across distant towns. People spoke of the beautiful furniture he created. They admired not only his skill, but also his wisdom. Samuel rented a small cabin and began working quietly. Every morning before sunrise, villagers saw a lantern glowing inside his workshop. Every evening after sunset, the same lantern still burned, day after day, week after week, without fail. Curious, Ethan visited him. "How do you stay motivated?" Ethan asked. Samuel smiled. "I don't." The answer surprised him. "What do you mean?" "Motivation comes and goes. Discipline stays." Ethan frowned. "But I never feel ready." Samuel nodded. "Most people don't." Then he pointed toward a tree outside. "Do you think that tree waited until it felt ready to grow?" "No." "Do you think the sun waits until it feels motivated to rise?" "No." Samuel leaned forward. "Then why do you expect life to reward you for waiting?" The question haunted Ethan. For several days he thought about it. Yet nothing changed. He still delayed. He still postponed. he still promised himself tomorrow. One evening, Samuel invited Ethan for a walk. They climbed a hill overlooking the valley. Below them, hundreds of lights flickered from homes and workshops. Samuel pointed toward 3 different houses. "Do you see those?" "Yes." The first man dreamed for 10 years. The second worked for 10 years. The third complained for 10 years. Ethan laughed. "Which one became successful?" Samuel smiled. "You already know." They continued walking. After a moment, Samuel asked, "Tell me, Ethan, what do you want from life?" Ethan answered immediately, "I want freedom." "What else?" "I want success." "What else?" "I want people to respect me." Samuel nodded. "Good." Then he asked, "And what are you doing today to earn those things?" Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it. He had no answer. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. For the first time, he saw his life clearly, not as he imagined it, not as he hoped it would become, but as it truly was. He realized something painful. He wasn't failing because he lacked ability. He was failing because he kept negotiating with himself. Every day, he traded progress for comfort. Every day, he chose temporary pleasure over permanent growth. And every day, the gap between who he was and who he could become grew larger. The next morning, Ethan made a decision. Nothing dramatic, nothing exciting, no grand announcements, no promises. He simply worked for 1 hour, just one. He cleaned his tools, organized his workspace, finished a small unfinished project. That was all. Yet something strange happened. For the first time in years, he felt proud of himself, not because of what he achieved, because he finally did what he said he would do. The following day, he worked for another hour, then another, then another. Soon he noticed something important. Starting was always difficult. Continuing was easy. His biggest enemy wasn't the work itself. It was the hesitation before beginning. Months passed. Small actions became habits. Habits became routines. Routines became results. The dusty toolbox became active again. The empty workshop became productive. Customers slowly appeared. Then more arrived. Then more. Nothing happened overnight. But everything changed over time. One day, Ethan met an old friend. The friend complained constantly. "I wish I had your success." Ethan almost laughed. Success? If only the man knew. The workshop he admired wasn't built through inspiration. It was built through ordinary days, boring days, difficult days, days when Ethan wanted to quit, days when he wanted to postpone, days when he wanted to say, "I'll do it tomorrow," but chose not to. Years later, Ethan became one of the most respected craftsmen in the region. People often asked for his secret. They expected complicated answers, productivity systems, business strategies, special techniques. Instead, he would tell them something disappointingly simple. "The secret is that I stopped waiting." Most people nodded, then ignored the advice, because simple truths are often the hardest to accept. One winter evening, Ethan visited Samuel again. The old craftsman had grown older. His hair was completely white. His hands trembled slightly, yet his eyes still carried wisdom. They sat beside a fire. For a while, neither spoke. Finally, Ethan said, "You changed my life." Samuel smiled. "No." "Yes, you did." Samuel shook his head. "I only showed you a mirror." The room became quiet. Outside, snow drifted through the darkness. Then Samuel asked one final question. "Ethan, what was the hardest part?" Ethan thought carefully. He remembered the years of procrastination, the excuses, the delays, the wasted opportunities. Then he answered, "The hardest part wasn't working. It wasn't learning. It wasn't failing. Samuel waited. The hardest part was accepting that nobody was coming to save me. The old man smiled. Exactly. For years, Ethan had secretly believed that someday he would suddenly become motivated, suddenly become disciplined, suddenly become successful. But life doesn't work that way. The future doesn't arrive carrying gifts. It arrives carrying consequences. Consequences of today's actions, or today's inaction. Samuel passed away peacefully the following spring. The entire valley mourned. At his funeral, people shared stories about his kindness and wisdom. Before he died, Samuel left behind a notebook. Inside were hundreds of observations gathered throughout his life. Near the final page, Ethan discovered a sentence underlined twice. It read, "A year from now, you'll wish you had started today." Ethan stared at the words for a long time. Then he closed the notebook, because he understood. The sentence wasn't about business, or money, or craftsmanship. It was about life itself. As the years passed, Ethan taught apprentices. Many reminded him of his younger self, talented, ambitious, full of dreams, yet trapped by delay. Whenever they asked for advice, he told them a story, not about success, not about wealth, not about achievement. He told them about tomorrow and how dangerous that word can become. One apprentice once asked, "How do I know if I'm wasting my potential?" Ethan answered, "Ask yourself one question." What question? If the person you want to become met you today, would they be proud of your daily habits? The apprentice became silent, because deep down he knew the answer. Most people do. Years later, when Ethan himself became an old man, he often sat outside his workshop watching the sunset. The valley had changed. New buildings stood where empty fields once existed. Young people chased dreams. Children laughed in the streets. And every now and then, someone would ask him the same question. What is the biggest lesson you've learned? His answer never changed. He would point toward the horizon and say, "Life rewards action." Then he would pause. And life punishes delay, because in the end, success isn't built in a single day. Failure isn't created in a single day either. Both are built quietly. One decision at a time. One habit at a time. One tomorrow at a time. And now, remember the promise I made at the beginning of this story. The one thing that separates dreamers from achievers. After Ethan's entire journey, after years of lessons, struggles, failures, and growth, what was it? Not intelligence, not talent, not luck, not money, not opportunity. It was this. Dreamers wait until they feel ready. Achievers begin before they are ready. That is the difference. Nothing more, nothing less. So if there's something you've been postponing, a goal, a business, a project, a skill, a healthier life, a better future, don't ask whether you'll do it tomorrow. Ask yourself something better. What small action can I take today? Because tomorrow is only a promise, today is an opportunity. And opportunities, unlike tomorrows, do not wait forever. The life you want is not hiding in the future. It's waiting on the other side of the work you've been avoiding today.